this club exists to win. This club is built on winning and needs to remain like that. And part of that is building from a position of strength. And that's why this summer is so important to us. And we've had some updates, so let's get into some of those quickly. We will not be signing Dean Huijsen. Real Madrid have triggered his release clause and are expected to seal personal terms with him in the coming days. Look, even if we'd signed him, as I said the other day, the clock was always going to start from the minute you sign him, the clock starts on him going to Madrid. And I'm a little bit surprised that Real are actually paying money for him rather than letting someone else pay the money and then immediately starting to tap him up so that when his contract expired in 5 years, he would join them on a free. But they're making a move now. Probably this is a player that Alonso likes. And obviously when they're getting Alonso in, they're going to want to back him with some players that suit what he wants to do. Huijsen, I think, will be really good for Real. But he's got a long way to go. And on that stage, I think people will see that as a defender, he's not at the level that people maybe expect him to be at, that people consider him at. But at the same time, as a ball player, he is outstanding. Like he is sensational. And congrats to Juve for selling him for 10 million quid a year ago. That worked out really well for you. You just spent 15 million on Lloyd Kelly, who was sitting on Newcastle's bench after they signed him for free 6 months earlier. Congrats on that to Juve. The Florian Wirtz thing, now, it's hard to know. Like, it really is hard to know what to make of any of this. He definitely met with the club the other day, him and his father. They flew over, they met at the club. Some reports suggest that he met with City as well. Others suggest it was just with us. It seems to be the English reports that say he met with City, whereas most of the German reports suggest it was just with us. That clown on Sky say he didn't meet with us, says he didn't meet with us, but he did. Leverkusen clearly don't want to sell to Bayern. Like, I think that's pretty obvious. They do not want to sell him to Bayern. They're sick of how Bayern conduct themselves and basically pressure all young German players to run their contracts down to go to them. Same as everybody's sick of Real Madrid. Leverkusen have had issues with Bayern, obviously for many, many years, but in terms of transfers, since Michael Ballack. So, back in the day, Michael Ballack was obviously one of the best midfield players in the world in the early 2000s. And he'd been part of that brilliant Leverkusen team that had almost won the league and got to a Champions League final. And he had really, like, he joined Leverkusen at 22 for 4.1 million. And 2 years later, his value, and this is in the early 2000s, so this is serious money back then, his value probably stood somewhere in the 20 to 25 million range in 2001. Now, it wasn't until the next season that he had, like, his real explosion. But there were tons of clubs interested. And by all accounts, there was an offer on the table, or multiple offers maybe on the table for Michael Ballack in that 20 to 25 million pound range. And supposedly, Bayern got to him and told him, don't move, stay where you are, and in a year where you've got 1 year left on your contract, we're going to come in and get you. And he did. He refused the moves. He stayed and had an incredible season. Had the best season of his career, arguably. So his value, in theory, should have been going up. And Bayern ended up coming in, and I think they got him for like 12 million or something. Like half what he could have gone for the year earlier. Just a phenomenal player. And he goes to Bayern and he wins everything with Bayern. Obviously, goes to Chelsea later and was very good for them as well. Won the double with them. But the point is, Leverkusen felt Bayern screwed them, and they've tried to screw them multiple times since. And if you look at the big players that have come through Leverkusen in terms of like German stars, Julian Brandt, Leverkusen refused to sell him to Bayern. He ended up not working out the way they'd hoped, and his value didn't go the way they hoped. And he ended up going to Dortmund. And he's been good for Dortmund, but he never became an elite player. Kai Havertz, Bayern were very open about the fact that they really wanted Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz was to be the Thomas Müller successor as a number 10, and they just refused to deal with Bayern Munich. And basically they told Bayern, if you want him, you're going to pay way more than everybody else. So I think Chelsea bought him for, I want to say 70, but Bayern would have had to pay like 90 or something ridiculous. So now you're on to Florian Wirtz, and supposedly the price that's been set for Bayern is 150 million euro. Now, if I pull up a quick currency converter, 150 million euro is 126.37 million Great British pounds. That's the price they're asking for Bayern. You'd wonder, is it a lower price if he goes elsewhere? Because if it is, that would help us. Now, all the reporting today is that we're definitely interested. David Ornstein said yesterday we've approached his people. The meeting, Liverpool meeting him and his father seems to have leaked without the club wanting it to. Probably why they held the meeting in Blackpool. But it leaked. And then the club went into, the standard sort of thing of putting out through various journalists, the low expectation lines, they expect that he'll stay in Germany, and they are interested, but they're not anticipating it actually happening. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes don't meet with the player and his father if it's just exploring a possibility. That's beyond the stage of exploring a possibility. You're down the road when you're meeting with the player. And the timing of it is interesting as well. While Arna and the players are out of country, have him in, and maybe you fly it under the radar, where it obviously didn't. It leaked, and then they had to go into not damage control, but I suppose hype control mode. Now, as we've progressed through about 24 hours since the Ornstein piece, there does seem to be a bubbling undercurrent that this might actually be something that happens. And I suggest, was it yesterday? Was I here yesterday? I think it was here yesterday. I've lost track. It's been a busy week. I couldn't see it happening. I think the wages are probably above and beyond what we would want to pay, but they're the wages that City are offering. If City are indeed serious about this, but City are quite far down the road by all accounts at Morgan Gibbs White, who'd be significantly cheaper and significantly lower wages. And Morgan Gibbs White's a brilliant player. It'll pain me to dislike him when he goes to City. But if City are looking at him, and Bayern supposedly now are looking at Xavi Simons, is it possible we could pull this off? It's a lot of money, admittedly. But it's money we can raise pretty easily. Like if you sell Diaz and Elliott, that's 100 million. If you throw Ben Doak onto that, that's about 120 million. Diaz to Saudi, Elliott to one of the Premier League clubs that want him, or maybe to Leverkusen as part of the same deal but a different deal to cook books. And then Doak has a bunch of teams that are interested in him. Like, those three could cover Florian Wirtz. Now, his wages will be more than the three of them combined, but remember, we did remove Thiago from our wage bill and Joel Matip from our wage bill, and nobody came in and took up that money. And Mo and Virgil didn't get pay rises. Oh, and also Trent is going. So there's 200 grand a week opening up as well. Trent going and Thiago going more than pay the wages for Florian Wirtz. And even though you're selling three to buy one, he replaces all three of them because Doak is a non-factor in the first team. Elliott has barely played in the league this year or in the Champions League, except in meaningless games, in meaningless game in the Champions League. So Wirtz replaces Diaz and Elliott in one go. It's the same thing I was suggesting when I said I thought we should sign Morgan Rogers. Sell those two, Diaz and Elliott, and buy Morgan Rogers to play this same role off the left. It's doable. Like, it is doable. And then you still have Darwin to sell, which will fund your number 9. You still have the likes of Costas to move on and a couple of others, which can help fund a left back. It may well be that the Frimpong deal is more real than I thought. But again, we don't know. Ornstein had an update on that today. But it's not an update. It's the same thing that everybody else has been saying for 2 or 3 days. Liverpool are progressing in talks. But Ornstein's wording is weird. They're progressing in talks, but personal terms aren't an issue. So then they've progressed in talks. If the no personal terms are easily agreeable, there's not a whole lot else to really talk about because they haven't spoken to Leverkusen yet. Now, they don't necessarily need to speak to Leverkusen because it's a release clause. But you'd wonder, and this is a bit of a conspiracy theory. Is it a case where we sign either both the Leverkusen boys or none of the Leverkusen lads? Could it be that we sign Frimpong as part of a lure to get... Now, he'd obviously, not just because of this, because he's obviously a good player who can add things to our squad, but he would also help as a lure to get Florian Wirtz across the line because they're very, very close. And he obviously knows a bunch of the Dutch lads, and that would help integrate Wirtz into the squad. And obviously, Frimpong in his own right is a good player. He's not a good right back, but he is a good footballer. And maybe with the right tweaks, you can make him into a serviceable defensive right back. I have doubts, but he's dynamite going forward. He is dynamite going forward. He may also just be an attacking sign. Like, he might be an attacking sign. If we're selling Diaz and Chiesa and Elliott and Doak, then bringing in Frimpong as well as Wirtz makes a lot of sense for the attack. So you could end up with a situation where you've got Mo on the right, Wirtz on the left, Dom the 10. You've got a number 9, whoever that might be. And then you've got Gakpo and Frimpong basically as your depth. But, Wirtz can play the 10. Cody can play left. And he can play up front. Frimpong could cover both wings. Maybe. Again, Frimpong, you wouldn't just sign him just as a lure. But it could be another thing that factors into why we would want him. That he might help us get what would be the deal of the summer across the line. But again, Ornstein's update wasn't an update. But it's because it's got David Ornstein's name on it, people will run with it. But he basically just said exactly the same thing that, Pletty Goal was saying 2 days ago. There's nothing new in it. Don't think we've been linked with anybody else. But the Wirtz thing, it just, when you start to consider the possibilities, like, let's just say we sign Gyökeres, right? We sell Darwin to the Saudis and we sign Gyökeres. So we've got Mo on the right, Dalma's the 10, Wirtz on the left, Gyökeres is the 9. Now, in that front four, you've got 2 elite goal scorers in Mo and Gyökeres. You've got 2 elite creators in Mo and Wirtz. You've got 3 really good pressers in Gyökeres, Dom, and Wirtz. And you've got goal potential in Wirtz. And I think Dom's numbers would start to go way up because he'd get more opportunities. Because Florian Wirtz is a genius footballer.